this is a category of car that doesn't exist anymore. A big car with a manual transmission. If you had a family, this is what you would have compromised for. You didn't have a sports car. And it's not really a compromise at all because it's quite quick. It handles nice. And the engine is so incredibly smooth.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh yeah, it just makes, I would buy one of these. I think it's great.
I want purity of purpose, right? I want my sports car to be a sports car. I want my SUV to be an SUV, you know, which means I can run over a sports car if I'm mad at it and not notice.
It doesn't feel like a 30-year-old car. Welcome to an episode of Jay Leno's Garage. The car we're featuring today, just terrific automobile, 1994 BMW 850 CSI Coupe. In layman terms, that means a V12 with a 6-speed manual transmission. Why don't they make this car anymore? I don't know. But I'm very excited to drive this. As a young man, I worked at a dealership, and we used to sell the 70s, the TII and the 2002. And when the Coupe came in, the 6-cylinder, I thought that was the greatest car ever. It was just an amazing automobile. So I've always been a fan of this model. This one belongs to our friend Jason Cammisa. You know him from... Boy, he does a wonderful show on the Haggerty channel. He does research. You know, I'm standing here with a camera just talking. He actually researches. It's unbelievable. But Jason, come on in here. Good to see you, my friend.
God, I don't think I can afford to pay you for that compliment. So sorry.
I really enjoy your videos because you always bring something into it that there's a fact that I like to learn something when I watch these things. I just don't want to be entertained. I want to learn something. And I get a lot of my knowledge from you watching these. So, but enough about that. Let's talk about this car. The right color, the right transmission, the right engine, even the right giant mobile phone in it. Look at that.
And it works.
94 was a long time ago.
30 years.
Yeah, it is 30 years. It's hard for me to get in my mind. When I was a teenager, a Duesenberg from the 30s was like this is now. I mean, it seemed like it was...
Don't do that math.
Hundreds of years ago, you know? Yeah. It's fun. And it's got the sunroof. Just a great car. How long have you had this?
Almost a year.
Okay.
It was one of those moments that you have, you're sort of in the shower. I have these moments. The only time you get a free second, you're thinking, you're like, I'm getting older and I'm not hitting the grave until I have a manual V12 car.
Right, right.
And so it just happened. It was one of those, I'd always loved this E31 body style. And I thought, all right, what can I have with a stick shift and a V12 that I can afford, that I can fix? And that'll put a smile on my face. And here it is.
Well, I remember David E. Davis, remember he was the editor of Car and Driver. He said everybody should drive a V12 automobile at least once in your life. And he said that back in the 60s when it was, just not even possible to find something like that. You know, so yeah, that's always stayed with me.
He was right. He was absolutely right.
Well, you know, there's hope because Aston Martin just came out with a brand new V12 for their, I guess it's DB12, I think it is, yeah.
I don't even know.
But nobody's doing V12s anymore, brand new ones, and it's great, so it's nice to see. But let's get back to this. Okay, it's exactly 30 years old.
Yeah. Which
is hard to believe. This styling, to me, is timeless. This is just pure, nice-looking design that could, if you didn't know cars, you'd think, oh, how old is this car? 2-3 years old? There's nothing dated about it. And you can still see the roots of the very first CLS coupes that came out, which I just thought was amazing. You had that giant greenhouse and you sat up and you had the manual gearbox and that turbine-like 6-cylinder. To this day, I still want to find one of those, but they all kind of rusted out. They're in rough shape. Carmen built the bodies outside of...
Literally
BMW.
outside. They left the parts outside before they shipped it to Germany and they were rusted by the time they got to the factory.
I rest my case. So, are you pleased with it? Are you happy with it?
I love it.
Yeah.
So, this was always a sort of, I always looked at the car and thought it looked like a German Ferrari. So, no adornment, nothing extraneous on the car. It's a simple design. Then you drive an 850i, and it's a bit of a disappointment. They very much concentrated on making this comfortable. The engineers called the Ferraris of the day a public nuisance with all the noise.
Right, right.
They got it wrong, right? Yeah. Everyone wants, you buy V12, you want to be a nuisance.
Right, right.
I do anyway.
Yeah.
And so the car didn't sell. Sold out for 3 years when they first showed it, and then everyone canceled their orders when they drove the cars. And then BMW's panic movement basically was to send this over to M and say, make an M8 out of it.
Right.
That's this.
Right.
They didn't badge it an M8 because they screwed up that too, if I'm being honest. And the idea of a car this big that can really dance on a back road is something that really appeals to me. And it shrinks around you and turns into a...
Well, this is what the English would call a Q ship, but we would call a sleeper.
Yeah.
Because I like the fact that it doesn't have all, look at the M, it's the, you know,
Right.
you just, what is that, you know, and then it just quietly gets the job done.
Just a little blue BMW.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the modern BMW design language with that Bucky the Beaver toothy grill in the front of it. I don't understand it.
They're fighting. It's like the cars are angry at you and trying to get your attention rather than just sitting appealing, being like, I'm over here.
Right, yeah. Who was the designer of this, do you know?
It was internal, and I don't remember the guy's name.
But boy, they just did a nice job. You know, it's kind of, it reminds me of the F1 McLaren, which is another timeless design. Just look at it, and it could be 2 years old.
Yeah.
Not almost,
oh, yeah.
Almost 40 years old when you know.
Horrifying.
So,
and they have the same engine.
Huh?
Yeah, they have the same engine-ish. You know,
Well,
I have to say that. I'm
not-
required.
yeah.
They share nothing except an engine code. They're both S70s.
Right, okay, okay.
so
and it's, what are we looking at, 372 horsepower?
372 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque. So the 325i of the time, the E30, was a 2.5 liter straight six. They just welded two of them together effectively. So they were originally a 5 liter, literally two of those engines, same everything. This one's punched out to 5.6 in the CSI form. But they just took two of their straight sixes, put them together, two engine management, two fuel pumps, two of everything. Because nothing, this was the first post-war V12 from Germany. So there was no computer to run it. So they just made two independent everything.
You know, Cadillac did that back in the teens with their V8. You had two water pumps, and it works great. I drive that thing in hot weather. It's 1918.
Yeah, it's redundant. It's like being in an airplane.
Right,
Redundant controls.
Right.
If half of it breaks, well, then you're still on the side of the road, but they can pretend that you're not.
Yeah. Did you put an alert out, I'm looking for one of these, or?
I was looking for one to film an episode of the show in because I thought it was a cool story that these are actually, when you see the European, like the German registration forms, they were homologated into to be legal for road use under the term M8. And I thought, all right, no one knows this is actually an M8. So I was looking for one to film with, and in the process of that, I stumbled across this one. And this is, so there were 225 cars built for the US, that's it. Of them, 13 were individuals, meaning someone custom ordered everything.
Right.
This is one of them.
Okay.
And it popped up and I said, you know what, I'll just buy it.
Where'd it come from?
It was in New Mexico, and then I wound up buying it online. Found its way to LA to have some work done on it. And
So did you buy it sight unseen?
I did.
Yeah, it's not, you know, we always tell people, do not buy a car sight unseen. Okay, I'll buy it, you know. Yeah.
I have literally bought one car in my life sight unseen. It was a $300 Hyundai from Copart that had been totaled.
Right.
And then I go and buy this like an idiot.
Yeah. But you know, I've had pretty good luck too. But like my Jaguar XKE, the white coupe, this lady called me, just something about her voice. At the time, she wanted $50,000 for it, which is like 10 or 12 years ago now. She said, I once had it up to 80 miles an hour. And I went, oh, did you ever have an accident? No. Yeah, all right, so I sent a check. Car showed up. Oh my, the clock worked. When does the clock work in an XKE? I mean, she had it serviced, you know, the oil changes. Taking it to 80 miles an hour.
I didn't quite luck out on this. This car is, I'm working through its idiosyncrasies.
I mean, any major problems?
These engines have one problem. They never blow up. They never have any big issues, but they do have an oil line that runs above each cam.
Right.
And it's held on with banjo bolts. And the bolts will back out and starve the cam of oil.
Oh, I see. So it turns on.
It just wipes the lobes.
Yeah.
And this had that on one bank.
Okay, so you had,
but I didn't do it. It was fixed before I got it.
Oh, did you get the cams reground or what?
Yeah, they're welded and reground.
Oh, okay.
So who knows what has circled through the oiling system of this car. I don't want to think about it. It doesn't.
And how many miles?
72,000.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not bad.
Not bad. And these will go 300,000 miles. You know, I get so mad at people who go, my car's got 50,000 miles, I got to get rid of it. What? Yeah, they do. And you're in LA. That's, you know, people think, oh, it's worn out. Dealers give you nothing for it. And then, you know. Yeah. I mean, I've been driving my 6.3 Mercedes, 327,000 miles.
Oh, my God.
Just change the oil. It runs fine, you know.
Then when the Germans get it right, when the Germans get it wrong, it can be very expensive.
Right.
But this is one of those simple, 2 valves per cylinder, single cam per bank, nothing crazy about this.
Yeah, and I see nothing that screams 90s. It doesn't have the, your door is ajar, all those talky things.
It does have the cell phone. And that was a factory phone, and it does, when you start the car, you'll hear this. It goes, that really loud sound.
The cell phone, I mean, it's kind of funny. It just reminds me of that scene in the movie Wall Street. Michael Douglas goes to jail. Then when he did this, he gets out of jail, and they give him this giant cell phone that he had. It's like a shoebox on your head. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of do want to drive around just, on the phone to see if any cops will bother me. No, sorry, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, officer. I'm in the middle of something here.
Yeah, yes. Be a sovereign citizen. Yeah. I'm not driving, I'm traveling.
I'm traveling.
Yeah.
I'm in a V12. I can do what I want.
But it appears completely stock. There's no Kenwood radio in it, none of that.
No. One owner, 2 owners ago, put a big subwoofer in the trunk in the late 90s, so it sounds like absolute garbage.
How many owners has this had?
I'm 4.
You're
fourth. So the first owner bought it new in Germany. European delivered it. Unfortunately, he's passed, so I can't call him and ask him like why this color combo, why the blue carpets. Second owner had it for 2 years, and it was a disaster. Like it's a stack of receipts of, I have a pixel burnt out on this display, and I'm just having to call my therapist over. One of those. He's the one that did the sub. Third owner had it for 18 years.
Wow.
And now me. And so it had one owner that didn't seem to like it.
Now, have these gone crazy since you bought it?
Crazy down. It's great. It's fine. Everything's fine, Jay. It's fine. No, there's been a big price adjustment on these, but the weird part is the U.S. cars, because there were only 225 of them, they made 1510 total. The U.S. cars went really expensive for a while, well into 6 figures. The Euro cars are less expensive.
Yeah.
But we live in California, and that means emissions testing is a pain for the Euro cars. And they dropped about 20%, and now are on their way back up.
Yeah. So what are they, around 80?
I mean, this car did sell once at 150.
Right. Wow.
And then I bought it for considerably less than that.
Oh, that's great.
But they're around 100 for nice ones.
Let's open the hood and see what we got here. Is it on my side?
It's on your side, standard. There you go. You're gonna do the angel sing when I open it?
I like the cutout for the headlights.
For the headlights.
Yeah. Okay.
They got the headlights were there because German function. No one said we want headlights that pop up. It was the lowest coefficient of drag of any BMW ever made.
Wow.
And they needed a low end to do it.
And what is the coefficient of drag in this car?
0.29 for the
0.29. It's very good, isn't it?
Really good. For the base car. I think this was 3.0 or 3.1
but there's no silly splitter to rip off or any of that kind of stuff.
It does scrape on everything.
Yeah.
I will say that's the one concession you're making to style.
And boy, it looks like they just got that motor in there, didn't they?
Look at those spark plugs and tell me how much fun they are, and you think they're going to be to change.
Yeah, it's almost an engine-out spark plug deal, isn't it?
There's no room.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a very good friend of mine who owns a BMW shop, and every time I've started to ask a question about one of these cars. Hey, if I ever no, and the answer is just immediately no, and he's just got these enormous ape hands, and he's like, I can't do anything. All right, I guess I'll have to.
But it does look like 2 6-cylinder engines made it together, doesn't it?
Well, you see distributor,
right.
mirrored from each other, and that is actually the same part as the 6-cylinder car. It's just 2 of them slapped in.
Yeah, but I like that. I like redundancy. If something breaks, I can get home.
Funny enough, in the press release for this car, they said, well, if one side of the engine were to die, it still will cruise it up to 125 miles an hour on the other half.
Right, yeah.
Like only the Germans.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, but I like that. Boy, this really appeals to me. I'm surprised they didn't sell more of these.
I think that the pot had been spoiled by the 850i's that were, they were 7-point-something seconds to 60.
Yeah.
And this car was way more expensive than the contemporary SL Mercedes. So the SL came out, the R129, and it was 500 SL. It was quicker it was a second plus quicker to 60 than this car, $20,000 cheaper.
Right.
And a convertible.
Right.
And it was gorgeous and well built. And so that 850 just sort of turned a lot of buyers off. And by the time they got around to this car, I don't think anyone knew that it was an M. It just said they have one M badge on it. It's under the hood. No one can see it.
And it's a single overhead cam on each side,
Yep.
2 valves per cylinder, nothing outrageous.
Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
All the crazy stuff on this car was actually all underneath. It was the first CAN bus car. So first to use a computer network. So you can do things like hold the key button and the windows will close. The windows will open or close.
Right.
And like you hit 100 miles an hour and the windows automatically roll up.
All right.
Because why? Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like a new toy for the Germans to play with.
Right.
And this was there was no budget. There was no budget for this. It was cost, no object. They spent $1 billion of today's dollars, developing this car.
Really?
Yeah. And the guy who headed the development was the head of Wolfgang Reitzler.
Yeah.
Nice, sweet German name. Was the head of R&D. And so they made a lot of decisions on the car that I think were very much, let's show off what we can do versus what do the customers really want. And I think they had a hard time selling it because of it.
Have you heard from other owners that have this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody modified this engine to get 400, 500 horsepower? out of it?
Yeah, I know of one guy that put a big fat supercharger on it.
Yeah.
And it's got to be over 500. The thing just lays rubber for miles. I would love to put a big set of Lopi cams in it.
Where do you put a supercharger in this? I don't get it.
Down there somewhere, and I don't know.
Not
you can't see
turbocharger,
it. No,
supercharger.
You can't see it on this car. It's belt driven, down there somewhere, and I have yet to find it.
Wow.
I mean, you hear it. With only 225 of these things sold, there's not really a lot of the CSIs, I should say. There's not a lot of aftermarket support for them.
Any idea what it weighs?
I weigh this one 4,134 pounds.
Oh, okay.
With a subwoofer in the trunk.
Yeah, it's no lightweight, but yeah,
No.
but that's about right. Because you
Big-
still had door guard beams and
Yeah.
safety features and stuff, so yeah.
And you know, and of 12, and this transmission is, they used this 6-speed once and never used it again. It's enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing is it'll never break.
Right.
The bad thing is you literally can't get a clutch for it.
Gets a little pricey.
I'll call you if I need a clutch. I'm sure
Yeah.
you got a guy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's go around the car a little bit more. Let's go to the inside
Sure.
a bit. And obviously, it's independent suspension all
Yeah.
the way around. Yeah.
This was BMW's first multi-link rear.
Okay.
So they'd always done that semi-trailing arm, which what made the car so lively. If you lift off the gas, the back comes around.
Right,
and
right.
They love to slide around. Of course, head of R&D didn't want this car to slide, didn't want anyone to have any fun, and so they developed this 5-link rear suspension that towed in under side loads. So for stability, that's all they
yeah.
cared about. And then M undid that with different bushings. So the car is actually now assy and
okay.
likes to slide around.
And so it's a stock power steering.
Stock power steering, it's a box, it's not
Yeah.
rack and pinion.
Right,
Which is
okay.
a strange
Yeah, that
thing.
seems odd, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay.
But otherwise, other than these sort of electronics on board, it's all very conventional stuff.
And it says BMW individual right here
Yeah.
that you mentioned. So if you ordered, I want this with plaid upholstery and a red roof or whatever,
Yeah.
it would say individual on the thing.
Yeah, the European spec CSIs said nothing. The US cars either said M Performance, then an M badge on it, or individual.
Yeah, M Performance, like individual seems odd. It seems like, well, what? Is this
It's-
a prototype car? What?
Yeah, a strange sort of name. Again, Germans aren't great at marketing. And
Yeah.
you know, individual is their program that allows you to spec whatever you want.
Right,
And
yeah.
the guy who ordered this car spec'd the paint and the seats to match. There was a Tobago edition that was available in Europe,
Yeah.
which is Tobago blue with Tobago blue leather. And then he added blue carpets and wood and just did whatever. He probably saw one and said, I love the color, I'll have it.
It's like trying to explain the Three Stooges to the Germans. If a man has no hair, why would you call him curly? I do not understand. Well, I do not understand why he's curly if he has no hair. Well, it's just kind of an American, you know. Yeah. So individual.
But there cannot be curls.
Yeah,
You must stop us.
It's individual. I remember when we had when I was working at the dealership, and the idea of cup holders. Never. You put the drinking in the car. It's foolish. Why would you're going 60 miles an hour to have a cup in your hand? They just couldn't. Finally, they had to. And then when the Germans did come out with a cup holder, the Mercedes one goes up, turns this way, walk like an Egyptian, does all this. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
broke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Worked once.
Yeah.
For a can of this big, not, you know.
Actually, mine is, the one of my Mercedes is still good. You press it down, when it comes up, it makes a half turn, and then it comes around. And
Well, this is a much later car. They learned.
Oh, yeah, hilarious.
No cup holders in this car.
No,
Sorry, you're not drinking anything.
Very good. Well, I like the two-tone seats, kind of nice. Does it still have the toolkit in the back?
It does.
Oh, you know, this is when I fell in love with these cars. Let's show them what we're talking about.
Sure.
here. Well, I thought this was just the coolest thing when I was a kid. Where am I?
Right inside
here. There we go. Now here, you unscrew this. And there's your tool tray. You got pliers, screwdrivers. I mean, imagine putting a toolkit in a car today. Now you just have your cell phone in there and you call. And even look, even wrench, everything. I thought this was just the greatest thing. I'd never seen anything like it. No American cars did that.
No.
You know?
No, we had cup holders. So you had a beer to wait for the tow truck.
Right.
The Germans had to fix it on the side of the road.
Yeah, but very cool. You got a rag. You got everything you needed. And this is the factory kit.
The factory kit.
You got your tow hook right here. See, screw that in the front bumper. Yeah. But very cool.
Yeah, you have to get something for your $100,000.
Oh, but yeah, to me I thought that was just the coolest thing. And of course your CD disc.
CD changer. Yeah.
You know, I had a guy here, one of the older cars like this, and he had his daughter who was like 8, and daughter like Taylor Swift, you know. So I said, oh, let me get you some Taylor Swift. So I gave her 2 CDs. She goes, oh, thanks. And I hear her go, Daddy, what's this? Is it a movie? No, it's music. What? A kid had never seen, yeah. Isn't that funny?
It's not funny, it's kind of upsetting. I think that means we're from like a different planet.
Yeah, it is. Now tell me about those mufflers. Is something a little different?
So the one thing that I tend to modify a lot of cars.
Right.
And I'm always looking for cars that are like the perfect car that comes right out of the factory and doesn't need anything.
I like that. You want an original car so you can modify it.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking for cars that don't need it. And some things need it. This, the only one thing I think I needed to do was make it sound like something.
Right.
Because from the factory, it has my favorite V12 starter sound in the world.
Right.
And then you would start it and go, wee! Like, what?
Yeah.
If the whole point of a V12 is listening to it yell at you.
Right.
And so those are mufflers. It's bolt-on, so I can bolt it off. Mufflers and an X-pipe from a Ferrari 599.
Oh, interesting. Now, let me ask you a question. I mean, so many cars, and I guess it's started with this era, maybe where the muffler is tuned for optimum performance of that car. There's almost, like modern cars, there's almost no aftermarket system you can put on that makes a C8 Corvette run better or sound better than it does right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And those, I mean, like the Corvette, is great example, right? Because that thing sounds incredible out of the factory.
Right.
It's so loud. Any aftermarket exhaust, you put a magnephone, it's going to quiet it down.
Right, exactly.
This was the opposite. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. There's paragraphs in all the press releases devoted to how much insulation they put in for the intake system. They wanted no noise, and I just don't understand that.
Because, like you said, though, it wasn't being sold as a performance car. It was being sold as a Grand Tourer, I guess you'd call it, right?
Not even a Grand Tourer. I mean, you start, a Ferrari V12, any sort of modern GT car, it announces its presence and then it goes away when you're cruising, right?
Well, look at the new Rolls Royce. That's a V12.
Yeah,
you don't hear anything.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah,
fair point.
Yeah, same thing.
But I'm sorry. I'm putting the gas. I'm paying for those spark plugs.
Right.
I want to hear it, and so now it announces its presence.
Oh, I'm anxious to hear it. Can we take it for a ride?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Well, that's comfortable.
Right?
Let's hear that Ferrari exhaust. Oh, sounds good. Boy, you hear that turbine smoothness there. How old is this clutch? Did the owner ever put a new clutch in it?
First one lasted 40,000.
Wow.
It was that second owner who.
Is this second or third clutch?
Second.
Oh, it's still on the second.
Still on the second clutch.
So you're gonna have to do it, huh? Oh, but it's got plenty of power in it, yeah.
Lovely German horses.
Well, you forget that less weight means more horsepower. I mean, 4,000 pounds is not light, but it is lighter than a lot of cars. I mean, I think a Hellcat is like, what, 4,300?
Yeah. I think this is about the same weight as a current M3.
Yeah.
Same ballpark. It's deceiving because outside this is quite loud. But inside it sounds like nothing, right?
No, it sounds good.
Civilized, quiet.
can hear it. You got some noise out of it there. Very nice.
Baritone Donald Osborne sort of musical note. Where is Donald?
He's in Italy right now.
Singing, I'm sure. Let's call him. Hold on. No, it's fine.
And you have it hooked up, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to, say. Hey, hello, is this Donald Osborne? I have a special guest on the line for you. Please hold. No, he told me to go fly a kite.
Do you have this working?
No, I wish I did.
Oh, it doesn't.
You can't get cell service for it anymore.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but it does actually work. I mean, it's there. You can make pretty fun noises.
That's interesting. Why'd they cut out the cell service?
They turned the towers off. So the old analog towers.
Yeah. I imagine someone could modify that phone.
I bet you could. The reason I have it hooked up is for the bah when you first start the car, because it was the sound of money in 1994.
Yeah.
You had to be rich.
You figure this was competing against, I guess, the Viper, which had just come out.
That's true.
And the Corvette. You know, I always tell a story that when I got my Viper, they said, "You buy this now, it's the last time you'll ever see 400 horsepower in a car again, because they'll never make it this powerful."
No way.
And I fell for it. I bought two of them.
Did you love it?
Yeah, I like it. I drive to amuse myself. I don't race the cars. I tracked a few cars, but I can scare myself silly, and it's fun. And I like all the mechanicalness of the Viper. You've got to row this thing and pull it and push it, and it's not an easy car to drive. But yeah, I get a big kick out of it. And it's so much better as an older classic car from the period than it was as a new car.
Fair point.
Because I have the Roadster, and you can't lock it. You can't even lock the glove compartment.
I always say that the cars that are really terrible when they're new make the best classics, and vice versa. If it's a good car, not really.
Well, that's just true. I mean, the classic example of that would be the Lamborghini Miura.
Yeah.
Excellent car to drive swiftly, horrible car to drive fast. Oh my God, you're just going to wind up in the weeds.
You're gonna.
But going through the gated shifter, watching the carburetor, watching the linkage
Right behind you.
Behind you, head to it it's like the linkage is waving goodbye every time you press
It is, because it's about to explode and catch you on fire.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Can you imagine, like, I'm gonna buy someone back in the day. I'm gonna buy a Miura, and it's gonna be my daily driver.
There were people that did it. Yeah.
They're all gone now.
I did it when I bought mine. I used mine as a daily driver.
You're kidding.
Well, the yellow one, I tell the story a million times. I got it for free because the guy that had it, Dean Martin, bought it for his kid. His kid blew it up. My friend bought it thinking he didn't have time to fix it. There were no parts. You couldn't call Lamborghini. You couldn't get anything. It was talking about putting a 283 Chevy in it, all kinds of things to modify. And finally, the wife said, "Look, just give it to Leno. He likes those stupid cars." And I did. Now it's a $2 million car. But,
oh my God.
But yeah, I mean, amazing.
It's the most assaulting vehicle I think I've ever driven. It beats you up in every sense.
But it's like going to a dominatrix. It's enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, I entered Miura land having been told it's a terrible car. Yeah. And it's a terrible car, but it's a hell of an experience.
Oh yeah.
And who wants I want an experience.
The noises, everything.
Yeah.
When we were talking before, you said it didn't say M anywhere on the vehicle, but I noticed it's on the brake caliper. Yeah,
the previous owner, so the European version of the car had floating rotors and 4-piston calipers that they didn't put on the US version.
Oh, okay.
And so the previous owner upgraded to the Euro brakes. And then painted them the wrong color of blue. So I'm a little embarrassed by that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'll correct that by the next time I see it. But yeah, no, big. They were the largest brakes of any production car in the world.
Is that right?
Yeah. For probably a month or something before.
It's funny. There's a slight hesitation in the vacuum when you press the pedal.
There's a long travel, right? Long travel, and this is one of the few BMWs that had a hydro boost, so it's not vacuum. It's got the I call them testicles. It's got the brake, the accumulators. That's what it's called.
Right.
So yeah, all of these cars have a really long pedal. And then it's stiff once you get to the bottom of the travel.
Oh yeah, you get used to it right away. You know what does that too is the SLR
Yeah.
Mercedes.
Yep.
There's a measure of time that can't be measured. It's so small. But when you touch the brakes, nothing happens. Oh, there. Okay.
Yeah.
They're electric. It's electric.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time I drive this car for the first time, I'm always afraid I'm going to hit the wall in the garage.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you have a delay in long travel.
I love the fact that I can't see the hood.
Yeah.
So you feel like you're driving you feel like the front of the car is right here at the dashboard. It just drops off, which is kind of cool. I like that. It's so turbine-like smooth, this V12. It's a wonderful V12. And it's so under stress, isn't it? I mean, 2-valve, overhead cam, nothing crazy.
No.
Sensible red line. What's it, about 6,500?
64.
6,400. Yeah, I mean, it pulls great.
It impressed me. This thing must have been a monster in 94. 5.3 to 60.
Couldn't get much in 94.
So Viper was the first to hit 400, right? And then
Yeah.
what else was in this league? The Mercedes,
Well,
a year or two after, hit 400.
Chevy was resting on its laurels. They had no competition if you don't count Mustang and Camaro, which is not really the same thing. So, yeah, like the same Chevy V8, 350 horse, that's more than enough. You know, it took the Viper to go, oh, okay, we got to prove our game with the Z06. I see what you mean, yeah. Nice gears for first and second.
Yeah, some of these V12s, like, 60 miles an hour in first gear, 100 in second.
Yeah.
I love that these are so short. Third gear red lines in this car at 80 miles an hour. So you get to really play with it. Suck down that fuel.
It feels much lighter than it is.
You're spending time in E36 M3? Generation?
I have, I drive so many cars, I have to go back and drive and go, okay, now.
I remember it. This feels very much like that M3, where it's sort of shrinks around you once you start moving.
They seem to be getting away from the driver's car kind of thing. Maybe it's just me.
It's not you.
I mean, to me, driver's cars have a manual transmission.
Yeah, I don't. BMW, I knew we were in trouble 10 years ago when I had an executive say, we are no longer a car company, we are a mobility provider.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
I thought, well, you better get that ultimate driving machine tagline off your window stickers, please. And they make some good stuff. Not interested personally. It's my job to be objective about this stuff, and so an M3 is a really well-sorted performance sedan, but for me personally, it carries no interest.
It's funny, as you get older, you realize, is my taste based on what I grew up with?
Yeah.
Like, for example, now, when I talk to young guys, they like a four-door version of the car because, you get more people in, it's easier to make. I go, yeah, but it's not as cool. Why? What's cool about two-door? Well, I don't know, two-door seat. They don't even understand why you say that.
Yeah.
They sell more of those Hellcat four-door Chargers.
Yeah, than the Challenger.
Than the Challenger because, yeah, you get in the back. Yeah, so isn't that good? George, well, no, not really. Yeah.
I'm weird. I love dorky, usable cars that perform. So you've driven my 3 Series wagon,
right?
And why not have a wagon, with the extra usability and there's no cost,
right?
But I did a video on Nissan Z, and in the script writing process, I was sort of looking at annual wages. I know this is super nerdy and I'm sorry, but annual wages for non-managerial employees, so sort of normal people, inflation adjusted. And what I realized was the sort of dawn of the sports car was the open sort of British roadster that was braking all the time and you couldn't really rely on. And as we've gone through time, wages have not only stagnated for sort of non-managerial people, but they've gone down. We don't have the disposable income that we used to have.
Right.
And so you can't have a toy, which is why no one can afford a Miata at this point.
Right.
Even though cost adjusted, they're cheaper than they used to be.
Right.
And so the younger you are, the more you need practicality with your fun.
Right.
And the less pure those cars become.
Yeah, that's a point. Interesting point.
Yeah, so now all the kids want fast SUVs.
Yeah.
And I think, why? Who wants that? They do. They need it because they don't have the money for a two-door or a convertible. One car's got to do everything.
Yeah.
I want purity of purpose, right? I want my sports car to be a sports car. I want my SUV to be an SUV, which means I can run over a sports car if I'm mad at it and not notice.
I mentioned this once in a previous video. many people commented on it. It's like having a hooker that can cook. I'm not really here. I'm not really here for the sandwich, you know.
What I find funniest about this engine is you take two of the straight sixes that are in my E30, the 325i engine, the M20,
Right.
which both I think that engine's one of the best sounding sort of mechanical noise straight sixes from the last 40 years. You put two of them together and they sort of cancel each other out and sound like nothing.
Yeah, it's the same thing with show business. If we had one comedian, he was great. If we can get 5 comedians in a room together, that'll be unbelievable. No, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
It's the only BMW I've ever owned that I had to put an exhaust on.
You do any research about putting the Ferrari mufflers on a BMW in terms of, you know, the amount of back pressure and all that, lose horsepower?
I didn't, and I haven't dynoed it yet. I will. I'm dynoing it mostly because I want to see what the chips do. I chipped it.
Yeah.
Which, of course, 2 computers, 2 chips.
Okay.
But if I lost 5 horsepower, I wouldn't care, because it was, in all honesty, the car was so quiet, I would have sold it.
Yeah.
But just that, you know, I just want to hear the 12. And of course I did my YouTube research, and I watched a million videos, and finally found this combo, which was the mufflers fit right in. Took a little bit of modification to make them fit perfectly, because I wanted it to look stock. But it's go figure, the Italians can make a muffler.
The watch I'm wearing right now is the Omega Seamaster. This is the James Bond one, the 007 one. I guess in the early 90s, the Bond series went from Rolex to Omega, because I remember the woman who was the costume designer for the show, she wanted she felt that Rolexes were becoming too city boy. That was the word, too city boy. She wanted a more masculine, you know, rough and tumble. So they went to the Omega Seamaster. And that's what this one is here. This one is here.
Now, does it track your heart rate and fitness?
No, it doesn't do any of that. It doesn't do it. But if you stand on it, it gives you your weight, which is like, no, it doesn't.
But was that like a subtle hint that you expect me to give you a watch on this? Because no one told me.
I was thinking.
Here, sorry, hold on. Here, have a smelly, used, greasy Apple Watch.
Well, that's you have the optional, I'm not sure what that is, band.
Martini stripe knockoff.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But it's yours, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. No, this thing is pretty cool. It's got a nice. I like a heavy watch in my hand. I don't know why, but I do. I like it. It's got a bit of heft to it.
I can't be trusted with nice things like that. I'd weld myself to a positive battery terminal.
I've had that happen, boy. I was reaching in with a metal band, and I know what I touched on and Jesus, thing just
hot real fast.
Yeah.
I did that with a key on a 75 Chevy Impala wagon when I was 13. I was underneath poking around with something, and I welded the key to the steering column. My father was going to kill me. What are you doing in there? I'm like, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Like, it really burned.
I remember I was about 6. I took out a cigarette lighter. Why is that red circle?
Oh, God.
I still see the rings.
The rings on your finger?
Yeah.
You go in for a forensics exam. Well, someone has committed a crime. There's a very strange fingerprint.
Yeah. This is when they were using the ultimate driving machine slogan to its most effective. I thought that was a great campaign. You know, Bob Lutz came up with that. Did you know that?
I love that trivia.
Yeah, that's Bob Lutz. Bob Lutz, of course, you know, from General Motors and everywhere else, but he ran BMW in Germany.
Yeah.
And I guess he did the worldwide sales, what do they call it? And that was his slogan, the ultimate driving machine.
What a hero that man is.
Oh yeah, I think he's great. I like Bob. Real character. You couldn't have him today with the cigar and the women and all that. Yeah. But
man, he has left quite a mark on the industry.
Yeah. He's like a guy from Mad Men.
Mad Men.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Maximum Bob.
Yeah.
Anyone who gets a nickname Maximum is
And he flew his own MiG fighter plane. That's hilarious.
And he's Austrian, right?
Well,
he's
American.
German. Austrian American.
Yeah. I guess that's probably true. Yeah.
My favorite thing of BMW in the must have been late 90s, was when they did that series of BMW films. Remember that? With the Guy Ritchie film with Madonna?
Yeah, those were kind of cool.
That made me laugh.
Yeah,
that was really neat.
Those are funny. Yeah, I guess you would call this a grand touring car, is that correct?
Yeah.
More than a sports car?
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to call something that weighs 4,000 pounds a sports car.
But that was a kind of a new segment. You had a car that was comfortable and big, but also handled, which you really didn't have in America at the time.
No, certainly no American cars, right?
No. I mean, I guess this would be competition for, at the time, well, it's later, the 6.3 or the 6.9 Mercedes, maybe a little sportier version of that.
Yeah, unless you needed to put someone in the back seat. And this back seat is absolutely perfect for a paraplegic with no legs.
Yeah. I'll do the alternate. Well, for a small person.
For a small person, yes.
Yeah, a small person.
A limbless small person.
Yes. It's got plenty of power.
It's low.
You know, this feels like, if you told me this was 500 horsepower, I would believe you, because in a modern car it would be another 700 or 800 pounds in weight, you know? I mean, I must say, this feels like a lot more than 372 horsepower. Maybe because, I know with 4,000 pounds it's not light, but it's lighter than a lot of modern cars with this much horsepower. I've got a couple Lamborghini Espadas, and those are the front-wheel drive V12s that David E. Davis was talking about. And they're just so much fun to drive. You just got that sweet torque, that pull that just carries you along. I mean, they're not crazy fast, but you don't need a lot of throttle to feel it pick up, you know? Well, I like this thing a lot. It feels tight. It doesn't feel like 72,000 miles. This car feels like it can go 300,000 miles, no problem.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, those BMW 12s are very good. Was that Paul Roush? That's who it was?
Paul Roche, yeah.
Paul Roche, yeah. He's the one that did the F1 motor. Using this, I guess this block, but different everything else.
I wish I could say this really did share that much with the McLaren F1.
Yeah.
But sadly, I mean, it's the same basic architecture.
Same number of cylinders.
They started out with this and then just lightweighted it and lightweighted and lightweighted. And then the 4-valve heads.
But this is a category of car that doesn't exist anymore. A big car with a manual transmission. You know, this is what, if you had a family, this is what you would have compromised for when you didn't have a sports car. And it's not really compromised at all, because it's quite quick, it handles nice, and the engine is so incredibly smooth.
I'm glad you like it.
Oh yeah, it just makes, I would buy one of these. I think it's great. And with a little tweaking, I'm sure there are BMW guys that could really get a lot more power out of this motor. You know, there's 550 horsepower hiding in here somewhere.
Well, yeah, your McLaren F1 proves that.
Yeah, true.
I think I need to do some sort of intake to get like a nice guttural intake noise. The best.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that's missing still. I'll fix that. It's already got forced internals. I think. What do you think? 8,000 RPM, nice lumpy cams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes against the ethos of what the car is. It's supposed to be
civilized.
Yeah, a sports car. For a guy who wants a sports car, but as a family, this is what you would drive on the Autobahn at 155, and you know, just great. Sensible dashboard. I mean, nicely laid out. What is it? Form follows function. Is that the word I want?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is quite pleasant place to be. Seats are comfortable.
I mean, I live 400 miles away from you, and this drive was, you know, of course, if I could, would I fly down right to the Burbank airport? Yes. But this was the next best thing.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is
comfy.
It's a very enjoyable car to drive.
The BMW's list of competition on this car and all the press materials is very funny, because it included Jaguar XJS and like an S-Class Coupe.
Right.
But then also an Alante, a Corvette. Like, they didn't know, and there was a Lamborghini in there. They didn't know what the hell to compare it to.
That's funny. Yeah.
Ferraris, of course.
It doesn't feel like a 30-year-old car. You said rattles and squeaks, but I hear maybe occasional, but not bad. I mean,
it's only when you really hit bad stuff.
No, it's very, very good. I think this is a car that will just continue to appreciate in value because it just has traits you don't see anymore. Comfortable with the stick, and like you say, the transmission feels fabulous. Very buttery.
I want these cars to appreciate because I want people to continue to appreciate the lost art that is this car.
Yeah.
Short gears.
Right.
Think about, I mean, you drive anything with a V12 and they're 60 miles an hour in first gear. So you don't get to enjoy it. And they're doing the car companies are doing that, A, for a fast 0 to 60 because there's no shift in it, but B, for fuel economy. And modern cars are all so choked. So many decisions are made because of fuel economy things. This was chosen for enjoyment.
Right.
Or it would have had, you know, a smaller turbocharged, hybridized, whatever. It didn't exist yet, obviously. But this is a lost art.
But it is the perfect compromise. It's exactly what a GT is supposed to be. A 4-door sedan, but with 2 doors, a little nicer styling, and sports car handling. This could actually be deemed a sensible purchase. Which is not
Thank God that's on video because I'm totally using that. Jay Leno said it's a sensible purchase.
It is, but I mean, there's a practicality to it, which is great.
I like cars that are different experiences, and all my other stuff, 10 cars, they're all small and little and high revvy and screamy.
Right.
And the idea that I can get in something that feels so foreign from the other stuff.
Right.
I like. And I like that this is just not a little E30 or it's not a GTI.
You could get in and drive this across the country, no problem.
If I could pay for the gas.
Yeah, you could pay for the gas.
And then, tire wear and all the other stuff. Nah, it's not. I mean, the joke is that I think, wow, this is such a big, heavy car, but really, 3 Series, Model 3,
most modern cars have these massive A-pillars where I'm always doing this. Is there a kid behind me? Is there a kid
Yeah.
And the mirrors are twice the size, so they're like, you can't see around them. Oh, I don't think you'll ever lose money on this car.
Hope not. I mean, look, I try not to buy cars for money reasons, but if I don't lose anything, bonus.
Right, yeah.
But this was a lifelong dream car for me. I have an emotional connection to the shape from when I was younger. And then my best friend had one and left it to me when he passed away, and I couldn't take it.
Why couldn't you take it?
We had bought it on vacation while we were on vacation together in Germany, and he snuck it into the country before it was 25 years old. I can talk about this now on camera because he's gone.
Right.
Snuck it into the country and had it registered with a VIN that was 1 digit off. He made up the 10th digit, so thinking he'd be able to register it in the US that way. Somehow convinced the girl at the DMV to get it pushed through, but the title didn't match the VIN plate on the car.
Oh boy.
That was a problem. And then it was an automatic 850i, not a CSI, and I didn't want that. And the family left it, he left it for me and all the other cars. I sort of dispensed with his whole car collection for his family, and I just handed over everything to his mom. And it's now 8 years since he's gone, and I just thought, it's not all forever. This is not a dress rehearsal. And I want a 12. I want something with a V12, and I want this shape in my life. I think the car is painfully beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's very good.
So yeah, you just gotta do. Sometimes you just gotta say, rip off the Band-Aid. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of car. It's a lot of investment. I'm scared of it. If anything really breaks, God, it really could hurt. But I can't go through life thinking I'm only gonna drive a Toyota because I can't have anything break.
Right.
And so you gotta live. So if something speaks to you, go buy it.
That's what I say. Well, I think that's a wise choice. It's not a wise choice, but you gotta
live,
it's the
right?
Choice. Yeah. Well, Jason, thanks for bringing this. This is fantastic. Watch a show on Haggerty. What's the exact name of the show?
I have a couple. I have Revelations, which is the sort of backstories of cool cars, and we have Icons, which is the big.
Yeah. Actually, I've seen them all, and I just thought it's Jason Cammisa's show.
It's just me.
Yeah.
It's me getting to be a jerk and behaving badly with cars.
Well, a lot of journalists are not really that knowledgeable on the cars than you are, which makes it really enjoyable to watch. But
Thank you, Jay.
yeah, check out the Haggerty channel. The one on Ferdinand Peak I thought was just fantastic. He was the madman who Bugatti and the 16 cylinders, and just a crazy guy, but a real car guy, and a real engineer. And of course, the great grandson of Ferdinand Porsche.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah,
grandson.
So,
Yeah.
Jason, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Jay.
And
It's
thanks
always
for
a
me
pleasure.
driving this. Listen to that. Just pull. So sweet. Right?
It's an honor to have you do that.
Just a great motor. Just a great.